After we started to visualize the 6 different sectors to be developed, each one with its energy, and each one under its own responsibility, a lot of questions started to come about the material part of this work. But before we entered this material part of organization and everything, it would be necessary for us to have it more clear about the main work and the function of these areas, each one and as a collective, because this internal work, this spiritual work, is the most important thing. It's the reason of being of these things. And according to what we develop, then the material part will emerge, the external part will emerge, which works as a support for this main thing, for this main work. So, a lot before we started to organize ourselves physically, we would need to create small nuclei of practice and attunement, inner attunement. And in the beginning, these nuclei, which would be 2 or 3 people in each of those areas who would be in charge of maintaining that attunement. And these nuclei, as they attune with the hierarchy or the superior levels of consciousness, they will attract others who will participate in those nuclei. So each one of those 6, F1, F2, F3, the town, the lands of the sun, and the brotherhood as the soul, and the Irmandade, will be one of those nuclei of attunement represented by 3 people. These nuclei would have the task of capturing and perceiving what the external structure must take place in each area. And it was very interesting because when we started to take care of this matter as a group here, it was clear what is the relation that all of this has with a real series of inner nuclei of retreat, of deep concentration that exist in certain regions of the world and form a network. So it is as if this network, of which certain etheric areas or inner areas are part of, areas of Mexico, California, Spain, Egypt, Tibet, south of India, China, and some regions in the Andean, in the Pacific Ocean, as if they were at this moment turning themselves for the creation of this nucleus here. In Peru, it's as if an extension would come to Brazil, and in the view of those who saw it a long time ago, in this view, in the center of Brazil, would emerge a great tree, a symbol. So this great tree would be this nucleus, and this tree means the extensions of that nucleus, of what that nucleus could awaken and develop in many creatures that would form the top, the symbolic top of that tree. To begin this, perhaps it would be simpler for us and more direct for us if we would avail ourselves to a work of prayer. And as this prayer is deepened into, as this work is interiorized, then other forms of this nucleus will come for us to work. But initially, a work of prayer would be a transition, a simple and natural transition for us who have been trying and have been carrying out so many ways of study and so many forms of gathering. All people at a certain point of their lives, they feel the need to pray. Even those who do not believe in anything, even those who do not dedicate themselves to these spiritual practices, even those who never think about this, no one disincarnates without going through a moment of really needing to pray, and sometimes that person doesn't know how to interpret that need, and they're looking for what they need, but what they really need is to invoke anything that is superior, to feel connected and integrated as a way of superior life, a consciousness that is beyond our current state. So that need of praying, of having this work, always existed. And that's why there has always been prayers with topics to help people to pray, because many people feel this need, but they are not free enough to do this in their own way. So I can feel the need to pray, and I don't need any formulas to do that. I don't need anyone to teach me how to pray. If I feel the need of praying, anything that I do so no one needs to teach anyone how to pray. But it seems that this is a little difficult for people to be spontaneous. So if they would pray in their own way, if they would direct to that superior consciousness or to God, to their superior beings, if they would direct to it in their own way, they wouldn't believe that something is happening. So that's why formal prayers are created. That's why the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Mary have been given to the world, the great invocation. Anyway, these formulas are given because people do not trust in what they are doing. So it's enough to think about something and you're already in that work. But this is very simple for mental people. People have the need of complicating things that are simple. During the whole time that I was speaking, I was doing this with myself. It's simple. There is nothing that will impede it. You don't need to do it later. You're doing it at the very same time that you're living, you're breathing. But people do not believe it, that this could be this way, this simple and so direct, and with such an immediate effect. So these formulas are needed. But there are also prayers without formulas, prayers without a topic, and that would be for those who already have a certain alignment, a certain silence. So if you and your bodies are used to be in that situation, your mental body, while you think about other things, while you do your material tasks, you're doing that work. So when the body starts to find out about this work, when this starts to happen very naturally, a formula would prevent that movement. But while we are not safe and we're not stable, it's good to have a formula. A formula will help you to align your bodies, your vehicles. So in this topic, or in these prayers with a topic, we have the mantras of Figueira here. So there is this way of reading something or pronouncing something, using a mantra, or there is the silent way. Within our work and task, we could add a prayer that we call by intention. That is, we do that prayer without formulas or with formulas, our own way. We do that in the intention of something. Some could do that in a pure way, simply by doing it without having any intentions, but this is very rare. It's very rare because there's a greater doubt than a person. Why is this used for? That is, the person needed some structure for them to be safe, to feel like they're doing something, that something is happening. So at the same time that we say that you can even pray without praying, if your intention is to pray, that is happening. We can also have formulas to repeat and to help you to enter that invocation and that state. But in the field of intention, if we do that in the intention of something, with that we could have the intention of placing ourselves in the face of the hierarchy. It's an intention. So I start praying, or I place myself in that intention, with intention of being before the hierarchy. And me being before the hierarchy, it's as if I was offering myself to collaborate in their work. A lot before we offered ourselves, the hierarchy already noticed that we have the intention of collaborating, and the hierarchy has noticed what our field of collaboration is. Before we offer ourselves, that is, long before known. So before we offer ourselves, everything is set for us. All of our tasks, our responsibilities, they're all ready. The beings that we have to deal with are being sent. This is all known by the hierarchy. So when we place ourselves before the hierarchy, we place ourselves before a service of reality in our lives. So if we place ourselves in the face of the hierarchy, when we feel positioned, when we feel while communicating, expressing ourselves, we have already offered ourselves to serve. This is all clear. So we will pronounce a mantra or read something as some help for us to maintain in that connection more. It's not that the hierarchy may need our mantra, because they already understood everything long before we started, but this is all for us, for our self-being to align with this, to align with this work, and start to go through the necessary transformation for them to radiate this energy of prayer. And by pronouncing that mantra, or by giving form to our intention, we elevate with our imagination our whole beings. We place our beings at a higher level possible, all of our beings. Here we imagine the collection of the being. We don't separate monad from soul, personality from soul. We take the whole being and we elevate it after pronouncing the mantra. So the mantra organizes the energy of that being, everything is organized, and when the pronunciation of the mantra ends, we elevate that being. We imagine ourselves more elevated, or we imagine ourselves with our wills being raised, being this would be a way for those groups to work in each sector of Figueira. That would be a way of those groups being there, igniting the flame of those sectors, and right after the flame of those sectors is lit and working, that work of prayer would continue, and it would be their way of maintaining that flame. So within our intentions, those groups will start by installing this, igniting the flame while we are organizing, while we are working. That group was really installing, making that light emerge, and then the energy of those sectors will start to show itself. The energy of those sectors will start to develop, to become visible with the work that each energy of this should do. And after the sectors are installed and the sector is working, showing the material side of its task, of everything that is being developed or everything that they are presenting, those groups of prayer will then go to another stage, which is the stage of keeping that. Because these things are not only kept with work and external prayer and not with goodwill, money, and everything. These things are kept innerly. So these groups will start to have the awareness that they are keeping that innerly. Because at a certain point, we need to become aware of what inner work we're doing. We need to perceive how we are located in the inner place of a work like this. We need to find out about this and feel. So these groups of prayer, in a second stage, they will work for this, so that those components of the groups can notice where they are in their inner work. If they would place before the hierarchy in the first stage, in the second stage, they will start to feel, they will start to notice in which hierarchy they are, in which inner group they are connected to, where in the inner world they are to be found, what their place is, what is the point of work that they have. So those groups, which are the inner structure of those sectors, probably they will begin by the indicated people to form it, and as they gather, others will come by the force of attraction when they feel that they have something to do there, when they feel that is their place. There could be some contact in the physical plane. They could do works together, gather sometimes, but according to the vision, that here there would be a tree with a great top and many branches. According to that vision, those people would come by, they would ignite this flame within themselves, and then they would continue this work. And this is what is foreseen in this part of the South American region, that is foreseen here in this work in Figueira. And this vision that is of some years ago, which mentioned a great tree in the center of the country, and not by coincidence this place has the name of a tree. So this is something that we would have to not only find, but assume. It's a work that we would need to assume at this moment, that we will divide this in these areas, because each of these areas has to radiate an energy. Each area must emanate a vibration, and each area has a very specific task. But we will need to keep in mind, we will need to keep two things in mind so that we can really exist and influencing in the world situation that is very chaotic in these planes where we direct this prayerful energy. We would have to keep in mind two very important topics and that help us to maintain, as in this work of praying, very steadily and with a lot of faithfulness. One is that a work like this of prayer, if it's a group work, it has an incalculable value, much more than an individual work. So those who have an individual tendency, they would need to remind themselves to eventually connect to all the others who will be doing that same work. We can see this, as it has been said, as a true current of inner centers that work on this, not in this way that has been said here. What was described here is our means of doing this, but in all the Andean countries, in that the etheric plane there are these nuclei in the other parts of the world that has been mentioned, this is a collection of forces that we can feel united to multiply this work as much as possible. And the other point that we would have to keep in mind is that if our prayer has an intention, the best our intention is, that will be answered following the law of need and not following our will. So we could have the intention of serving, but if we say, no, I want to serve this way, that will follow the law of need, and if it's not as necessary, that will not take place. It's not where the energy is going. So if we do some work without wasting any time, we can make this offering, but knowing that it will be fulfilled according to the law, and it will be answered according to that which is within the plan, what is really necessary for the evolutionary plan to have its development at that moment. So we wouldn't need to do a work like this and wait for some result and want that to bear fruits as we imagine it, because that will bear fruit in the most necessary way for the planet or for that region where that nucleus is radiating. And those groups would attract or would be looked for those who want to join that work, or those who will pray individually. Remember that this exists, that tree exists, and must fulfill the role of bearing branches in this great current that comes down through all of the Americas and unite to those countries of ancient Asia and Africa. And here a person is saying that in these lands we should look for a way of using the lands that would be the example for the dwellers of the whole region, and we could apply advanced techniques, even if it's a small place as a model, to create a small nucleus of research on this, because then farmers could use their lands better without wasting the land and using a lot of land for their crops. So see, there's a lot of needs that arise not only within people of manifesting certain works, of manifesting their own energy, as the very need for us of having a more productive. But I don't know if to achieve these things in agriculture, if we would need to begin by technique things. I would include this within the work of these groups of prayer. So these groups of prayer will find these forms, and if the groups or crops who are in charge of it eventually want to offer themselves to understand these things, participate in a group of prayer, start to pray, because light and indications will come to you, and all of this can happen like this. It would be very good if this happened. We don't have any illusions that an experience like this, especially with the earth, the care of the land in this agriculture field, we don't have any illusions that people will follow this and accompany it. We don't do these things to be accompanied or imitated. People today, they're very obsessed by artificial ways of producing food at the end of the cycle, but we could do this even without wanting others to follow us, even without hoping to be a model. We need to do something because it needs to be done. Then we'll see if others will follow it. It's their business. Our business is to do what we notice it should be done, but without this intention of including everyone, because not all people have this availability and are willing to do this, and they're worried about the earth or the plants, water. Not all are worried about these things. Most are just using them, destroying them, and wasting general resources. But we do things not wanting others to follow or imitate you. We do something because it must be done, and we offer it to God, and He will use it the way He says. That's better. And here, a person goes back to this topic of Ashtar Sharam, because we were talking about the rescue operation yesterday, and they asked what this is for us, and why here in Figueira we talk so little about Ashtar Sharam. Well, this entity that represents the rescue operation means for us all the evolutionary forces that are free on the earth. So it's the symbol of those involuntary forces to their new dwelling place. They will be served in other places. It's also a symbol for us of what nourishes our spiritual awakening, what rescues our beings from ignorance, from darkness to light, to knowledge. It's also a symbol of the elevation of vibration here on the planet, the terrestrial world, and how we work on these functions. We don't need to mention Ishtar all the time, because it's a name that symbolizes all of this. If we are taking care of all this, it's as if we were in Ishtar Sharam, within Him. We are in Ishtar Sharam. So if you're developing these things that this entity represents and this rescue operation represents, if you're leaving these things, you won't remember to mention it. You remember to mention it if you're here and He is there. But if you're living what that entity is, because it's an omnipresent entity, their name is diluted in what you're doing. That's why we're not talking about Untuak Mishuk, this or that, because we either are within them or we are in the face of a photo album, idols and beings. It depends on what we are working on. And these names, Sharam and others, they have an energy and essence that is very new for terrestrials on the surface. So this is all very new in this way. Of course that if we were talking about with the Archangel Michael, it would be so, because it's the same thing. The Archangel Michael was an archangel at that time. Today that is an entity, but it's no longer the Archangel Michael, it's beyond the Archangel Michael, because the archangels also evolve. They are not stopped, they're not crystallized in the consciousness of archangels. That evolves. So as that must have evolved, we can't call it the Archangel the Michael anymore. So there's this name Ashtar, which is the right name with the vibration and rhythm of these times. But we are still in ancient rhythms, in previous rhythms. So Ashtar, this consciousness of rescue itself, when we are aware of rescue, that name will be more aware to all of us. So we chose to work on the consciousness of rescue instead of diffusing names that are empty if you're not doing that which your name represents. So our work is to incorporate that rescue within our beings and rescue as a service in all the kingdoms, not only with the human kingdom, but here in the center with the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the mineral kingdom as well. You see, the other day I was reading a report about this new medication which has been discovered here, Furadendron. And in the light of everything that has been said, it's as if this would be part of the rescue of a certain plant, because this is used by the herbs of birds. You know what that is? Birds poop on trees, and that creates a parasite that starts to invade the tree, and it's called the herb of bird. A tree that is taken by the herb of bird, that tree becomes weak, because that herb will take all of its energy. The herb of bird doesn't have its roots on the earth, it has its roots on the tree, so it takes all the energy of the tree. So that herb of the bird is something to be rescued. And we can't do the work of the devas of the plant kingdom or the plant consciousness, because it's up to the evolutionary plan of the plant kingdom to judge, to select between the plant species of the earth, and then forward all the herbs of birds and other things that work like the birds' herbs, which are exploiting and not giving anything to the tree. To rescue the bird's herb is what has been done here, because a plant like this became useful. A plant like that transformed into a medication that will relieve many people. You see, can you notice the rescue of a plant, the rescue of a plant element? And when you start to make that medication with the bird's herb, its karma will start to change, because plants also have karma. It's not only the plant kingdom. Plants also have karma. And the karma of the bird's herb of eventually having killed many trees, it's not really good karma. So here, you making the bird's herbs such a positive thing, this enters the karma account of the bird's herb, and then that plant is rescued to a different stage of consciousness. And if we continue using this medication, and if this medication starts to, that plant species will have a different position. This is a rescue. This is all a rescue. Here we have someone's experience. I noticed that photodendron would be due to the simple fact of that medication already existing in the physical plane, due to the work of superior beings and an open channel between that a certain connection. And the other way, that brought some energy that would neutralize the effect of contrary forces in the person. If there is a degree enough of purity, it's as if this medication would neutralize the effect of contrary forces within our beings. But of course that for this, the person who was going through this experience noticed that it's necessary to have a degree of purity of intention within our beings so that this can take place. The effect of this medication allows the energy of the being to continue walking with this, without this contrary interference. So it's a good karma that the bird's herb is creating. Many times contrary forces within us manage to take some action, and we can manage that in different planes, but when it reaches the mental, emotional and etheric plane, that is more tense. And these medications are very important in those stages. So when it's about neutralizing the action of those forces, we can notice, even physically, the action of those medications, how they are dynamized and they're settled. Generally, we don't have any side effects, physical effects, but it's the how these contrary forces diminish. That's where the medication is working on the action of the force and not in the physical directly. Very well, do you have any questions? You know that out there, children are still being born. So a couple that seems that are very harmonious, and the child is born with a great deal of suffering in their digestive organs. Could there be any answer to this? Karma is not just a family thing. Karma is especially individual, so parents could be very healthy and harmonized, but if they are a channel for someone to be born with a karma of having the digestive system that is not very well, that will take place because it's the karma of that individual. It has nothing to do with their parents. Parents did what they could, and they came with favorable and positive components. If those parents wouldn't be there, the situation would be worse. So parents as souls, not parents themselves, but souls. Many times souls offer themselves to have children like this because they are in a better situation, so they will give those children the best state possible. And this is the donation of the parents. Many parents are in these conditions. There are souls who renounce of having their true children. They let their true children up there to have these ones which need the best conditions possible. There are souls like this. So, at the time of the test, those parents will have to be as dedicated as they promised up there that they will be, because no souls who wouldn't be born out of you will be born if you haven't agreed up there, if you haven't agreed. So if they came through you, even not being the ones that you would have, you're in service. So the ones which came through you, you would have to be faithful to your commitment until the end. Because even if the situation does not change there because of their karma and because of the person, especially because of the person, even if that doesn't change there, your attitude must not change, because your attitude represents the best condition possible for them to be living that. This is your part. Your part is not to change that thing. Your part is to keep the best condition possible for them to do what they want. And it's necessary to have courage. Once a person came and started to talk about their kid, don't say it anymore. That kid is not yours. You had it, but it's not your kid. They understood it completely. Oh, I understood it completely. It's not mine. What should I do? Give them your best, which is what you promised it, because otherwise it wouldn't be born out of you, because a son that is born is our kid. If it's not our own, there was something up there and you need to fulfill it. It's about making things less complicated, not to criticize, not to be revolted, to accept with the intention of helping it to change. I'll try to put it in order, and if I can't do it, I'll give them the best conditions I can.